Hello and welcome back to HGC North America, where Gale Esports, after that victory up against Simplicity, find themselves one peg up the North American playoff ladders, now going to facing up against Team Freedom. I am Dreadnought. With me as always is going to be Jhow, and of course we got our analyst here today, Temple Storm's Fan. Guys, we set a little bit of the kind of tone of what we expect here for this series. A lot of it is going to be how proactive can we see on the side of Gale Esports, and what version of Team Freedom are we going to see? Fan, do you have any insight on what you expect, maybe from your time playing against Team Freedom as of late?
I mean, as far as Team Freedom goes, they're a really two-dimensional team where if they are firing on all cylinders, they are, they can compete with the best of the best. They can compete with us, Heroes Earth, anyone. But if you throw them off their comfort zone, I find that they really tend to struggle. So if Gale Force can successfully maybe win game one and throw Freedom off of their comfort, that's where Freedom is going to struggle. But if not, then Freedom definitely can just roll the series over as well.
It's going to be interesting to see who can kind of gain that momentum into their favor. Also, because the positioning of Team Freedom was, in fact, higher within the playoffs or playoff standings as we take a look at our bracket, they had the opportunity to choose between the first pick or the map selection for game number one. So it's going to be interesting to choose based on that exact same tone, right? If the momentum and can you throw them off guard, do they feel like somehow maybe draft positioning, they want to prioritize the first pick or maybe that map pick going up against Gale Force?
It seems like they've always been more comfortable kind of getting started, letting the opponent just kind of dictate the pace. And then if they do need to fall back, it's been the Infernal, the Sky Temples of the world where they like to play into. And when we saw the previous series against them, Dreadnought, that's exactly how it went. Those were the two opening maps for Team Freedom as they went to Infernal, they went to Sky Temple and put Gale Force in a very big hole before Gale Force tried to take control, where they picked Tomb, which is their go-to battleground. So there was definitely that in play just a few weeks ago when Gale Force played against Team Freedom.
Yeah, and I want to know, like, what are these teams, got to be thinking and feeling before this point in time? And lucky enough, we were able to sit down Team Freedom and Gale Force Esports to hear some of their thoughts about this matchup.
So after beating Simplicity, after a pretty good match, we now face Team Freedom, which at the beginning of the first couple of phases, they've been looking really dominant. They've been taking a lot of series off like top teams, and like they're kind of hanging around like the top 3 seed. But now towards mid-season brawl seeding, they ended up 4th. So they're not in a too bad spot, but I think their performance lately, it seems hit or miss. I think Freedom has a better edge with macroing and like what they do as a team, but maybe mechanically, I think we're stronger in team fights. So we'll see like what's gonna win is either, the macroing part or the team fighting part.
So I think this year's playoff is going to be literally a bloodbath. Every team can qualify. Obviously, we want to qualify as well, but I think it's gonna go down to like what team shows up on game day. I think if we're facing Gale Force, that's because I don't know, they just straight up showed up against Simplicity and like surprised them with some sneaky draft, I would say. I think your drafts have been evolving a lot. We've seen that obviously our macro is good, but our team fighting, just our macro decision, we're like lacking a lot. So I think entering the playoff, obviously our macro is still good, but I think we improved a lot team fights wise, and I think our draft is focused on that now too as well. So I think we're looking pretty good for playoff.
A lot of focus there from, collusion about the macro and the opportunities to get advantages throughout the draft, and saying that, maybe they might be able to compete with us on the macro sense. Even talking about Fury was, we don't, it was funny. Fury was like, I don't think we can keep up on the macro. And then you see her Freedom going, I think we might, be able to give it up over to them. But I think no matter what, the talking points are drafting and macro. We brought it up here. I would say maybe toe-to-toe, close to even on these teams on the macro sense. But the evolution of the drafts that you heard Collusion referring to for his team, we've seen come to light here for today when it comes to Gale Force Esports. So now this becomes even that much more competitive in that front, and it makes it that much more exciting. I feel like this is going to be, normally if you asked me like last week or 2 weeks ago, I'd say this matchup, I'd probably give it over to Freedom, even with the positive end of Gale Force. But today, their level of play, I think we're going to have a series.
When it comes to Team Freedom, it's always about you can get one thing, but then you get another, right? You don't get the full package a lot of times, and that could be the back line, could be a little bit off, whether it's Yoda or Lutano, depending on what hero. Lutano's hero pool was a factor in the early part of this year. And then all of a sudden you've got the front line. You go into something that doesn't have enough protection for the back line. You get the back line right, but you don't get the front line right because you kind of run the Tyrael, which Zuggerug ran a lot of, but then you didn't have that secondary control. But it's when they get their draft together, the elements together, I feel that no matter what, they're not fully committed to one thing. We saw like full dive composition on Sky Temple. They never pulled the trigger. We saw the Tomb of the Spider Queen game a few weeks ago where they went at Stitch's composition but never pulled the hook. Like they never initiated at any point. But when they do get a well-rounded draft, this is a team that's much better. So I think sometimes they just kind of outthink themselves. Hey, maybe we should focus on the macro, and then they ignore the team fighting. That's always been my biggest qualm when I think about Team Freedom.
We're going to go ahead and figure out the battleground. I agree with a majority of what you had to say there about Team Freedom, and it's going to be interesting. I think the biggest thing is their drafting. And when I see the draft and then how they execute upon that draft. But again, first has got to be these battlegrounds. Bans coming out. Infernal Shrine's already taken off the table by Gale Force Esports, saying we do not want to deal one of your top 2 priority maps. Freedom going to go ahead and rid of the Cursed Hollow. In Game 1, on Tomb of the Spider Queen. By far the best battleground here for Gale Force Esports. Very much kind of home turf. I feel like if we have a North American team that is a Tomb team, it's GFE.
Yeah, I think the draft is going to be absolutely crucial here. The game you were mentioning with the Stitches a few weeks ago, I think Freedom played that against us where they had a Stitches, Tass, Oreo, Hanzo, and a Diva. So they're very stylistic in that they like their Stitches, they like their Diva picks. I'm not so certain about that. I think what they need to do here is they need to focus on what GFE has been doing on Tomb, and GFE has been doing one thing on Tomb. They draft Malf, Jaina every single game, and then they out-clear you, they get first turn in, they try and snowball off first turn in. Every single game. I think they need to find a way to stop that.
And when it's that straightforward, I mean, you're not wrong. And when you paint it that easy, it seems like, okay, well, then that's very easy. We can just, maybe higher priority onto probably the Malfurion in that type of situation. I agree. It does seem like it should be able to be kind of taken away on the side of Gale Force. But at the same time, Gale Force has done it against a majority of the opponents that they've taken in North America, even the teams that you consider better than them.
It's weird because Collusion has kind of a different hero pool as the support than most other supports have. And Malfurion isn't high on that list, so I really wonder, has he been working on it? He actually has a 100% win rate. The only problem is it's only been 5 games, right? So 5 games throughout the duration, when you look at a lot of the top supports, we're talking 15, 20 plus support games on Malfurion alone. You look over at Korea, they don't really play much else. It's Uther, Malfurion. That's just what a lot of teams do. Xaylia in particular, I think 20 plus games on Malfurion. So they do stylistically do things a little bit different on the side of Team Freedom. So if they are going to change it up, it could start there. And I think that's a major change up when you look at Collusion.
I'd like to raise maybe a bit of a counterpoint though on whether or not that is a good or a bad thing, right? And I'm not going to state, I probably through my tone, I'll state my opinion on this, but TLDR is just, when Team Freedom rose to power within the North American rankings, it was against the last year in 2017, right? Which we also had other successful stylistic teams, like for instance, Roll20 was a very much one with the Medivh, Diablo kind of compositions, and they were able to be successful. But since the adjustments of the rosters starting in 2018, we haven't really seen those styles be successful. And it hits a certain point where it just goes, I mean, I can drop Murky all day too, and you can call me like cool because I'm a Murky team, but is it that good, right? And is it worth committing to and keep going down that route? And so I'm just at a point here where it's just, we've seen that creativity and it was successful in a small time frame, but we haven't seen it since. And I would like to see them stick a little bit, maybe more meta.
So you're saying that eventually you have to evolve to make sure you maintain your #1 spot in North America by not going Deathball all the time. Oh, hey, fam. Hey, how's it going?
I mean, we might have been able to get #1 continuously going Deathball. You never know,
I
man.
really like the way that you guys have transitioned, though, in this second part. You guys are very heavy on the Deathball compositions. Since the Clash, obviously you guys had a top 3 performance, but since the Clash, you guys changed up a lot.
Yeah, Zealots kind of bodied us when we were running the Deathball. So did Dignitas. So changed it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's looked a lot better. You guys obviously, I think, had a few things to work through, but I think stylistically, changes do evolve around the meta. The Clash obviously brought out the Stukov, the Garrosh, big time. It's changed our meta a lot here, so I think definitely a very good point there.
Yeah, I mean, I think those compositions are always great. It's just that you have to have a big enough foundation, right? The more diversity you have within a team, always going to be bigger and better for you because the more opportunities to be able to counter in more niche manners. But you have to have a foundation. If you don't have that, then you're more often than not, your win conditions are very, very linear. And it also, I've always just struggled at gauging how good those teams are, to be honest with you, when it comes to objective strength from beginning to end. Even, especially as of late, because we've even seen Eastern teams, specifically, who am I looking at? Tempest did the exact same thing, playing very, very synergistic, all-in wombo combo teams. And I was like, this is the best we've ever seen a team of this playstyle ever perform. They got international, and what happened? One of the lowest performing Korean teams that we ended up having. It's just, what I'm trying to say here is that we do not have a consistent pattern. It used to be they would always fail, but now it's hitting this weird windows where it's like half the time it's working, half the time it's not. And at this point, Freedom, I don't know what side of the coin I want them to land on. That's not true. I definitely want them to land on the meta one, but I don't know if that's going to actually garner actual results.
I don't know if it was announced on EU, but I almost feel like when we talk about Korea, there was actually very big news out of Korea today.
Oh,
not necessarily in the current scene. Mary Day, former best support in the world. I mean, I think you could probably attest to that. Former best support in the world, former member of the old MVP Black roster in their most dominant days, retired last year. He announced he's coming out of retirement. He's looking for a team, Dreadnought. Look, if you haven't heard that news and you're not familiar with Mary Day, you probably haven't been following Heroes long enough, because he was at the top of the game for basically his entire career.
Yeah, no, he's one of the best supports that we have in the world. Hands down, one of the most consistent players, and very, very kind of revolutionary within his role. I mean, I'm excited. You know, if I was a fan, I'd be a little bit scared, like knowing that eventually he's probably going to be on the other side of the battlefield again. But I mean, and I'm really excited that we get, you know, another world-class support player, especially kind of back from the rankings there.
Watching his Karazim play, it always mesmerized me, because it's like the guy teetered on, is he too aggressive? But he was so god tier that it's just like, I'm good. Never questioned it. Never.
Yeah, I actually saw him play Karazim on his personal stream, and that's when I decided he was god tier. Like, before all those tournaments, he would literally recenter his hero every time his monk punched once while he was activating E. So it would just be like, recenter, 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 recenter. I've never seen anyone micro to that extent on the support role, and as soon as I saw that, it was a couple of years ago, I was like, this guy's definitely one of the best supports in the world.
Yeah, no, he's honestly, the guy's amazing, and it's going to be exciting to see where his future kind of unfolds here. It was definitely one of the more, you know, saddening players that I watched kind of walk away from the battlefield. You know, I feel like on the note of, you know, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, for anybody wondering, we are almost about into the game here. Just had a bit of a connection kind of conundrum there for a moment there, but another player, I feel like fan, maybe that you would hope would see a little bit more come out of retirement, maybe Xing C. It would be pretty dope if we got that back.
Yeah.
I feel like he's got to say out of like anybody a fan of the Chinese region. If you could have one player from that area, it's got to be him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think most people would agree on that too. I mean, it was last year at Mid-Season Brawl. I think that's where HGC really got famous. You know, everyone saw his Vola play, everyone saw his Greymane play, and he played out of this world. I think they came out of groups like 10-0 or something ridiculous in first place, and yeah, he's just an exceptional player.
I think we are just about ready to go. I think we are, actually.
Oh, baby, let's do it.
I get the secret monitor here in the middle where I got to keep an eye on things. Yeah, last year I busted out a stat during a group play in the opening week where Xing C averaged more, or had more total damage over the first handful of games than the entire Tempo team. Yeah, we brought that up earlier. Yeah, you weren't. You were there watching, but
True.
in memory of Xing C.
Garrosh is going to be the ban here for Team Freedom. We talked about front lines really mattering when it comes to these two teams going head-to-head, especially with Nasmus and Zugrug on the side of Team Freedom. Putting a lot of concern there with the ban out onto the Garrosh, not wanting to give that over to Freedom, but I still feel like for me, there's a lot of responsibility. The, kind of pressure of this draft to make a play is still going to be in the hands of Freedom. A big play already going to be made, though, in the fact that they got themselves that Medivh.
I'll say this. Okay, Medivh is Yoda on this team for Team Freedom. If I'm Gale Force and I want to make sure that there's somebody on that team that has to carry, Lutano is a straight killer here in HGC. I mean, you want to talk about carry heroes, he's there. Hanzo, again, coming up here early. No Jaina, by the way. But the Medivh, right? If I want to get somebody, I want Lutano on my F. He's their Maiev player. I want Lutano on my F because I want to take him off those big-time heroes. I want to see if Yoda can live up to it.
I gotta wonder if that adjustment for the Hanzo, we've been talking about Gale Force spiking the Hanzo value, right? And it's not surprising to see it at this rotation, but I wonder if a bit and pieces of that is got to be, you know, coming down to the fact that they just don't want to give that over to Freedom, because Freedom has been very comfortable with picking up the Hanzo for themselves. It's just, you know, interesting because, again, we talked about it. Mouth Jaina, that's been the punch, the 1-2 that we've seen from beginning to end from Gale Force Esports. It's going to be cool to see how it kind of evolves here with their draft. As for Team Freedom, though, Medivh be able to help with the 4-man itself. Malfurion and Hanzo provide very, I don't know, I don't want to say very little to the 4-man because they actually provide obviously a lot with some of the best wave clear and great supporting, but they don't indicate how you're going to approach your 4-man more so with that information. The Jaina Stukov, a lot of clear and more importantly, a lot of wave or kill potential, and the Medivh only going to accent that. I really like this, you know, first 3 pickups for Team Freedom.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting to me. I mean, the Jaina and the Hanzo have effectively swapped hands here. Lutano, to me at least, I feel like he's much more known as a Hanzo player. Not necessarily like known as Hanzo player, but he likes those playmaking heroes, you know, the Tracer, the Genji, the Hanzo. So swapping it up here, I think this will be a Lutano Jaina, which I have not seen too much, but at the same time, this means that Team Freedom now has wave clear priority, and they should have wave control, and that means they threaten the first turn in. So it'll be interesting to see how Gale Force deals with that.
You bring up a good point. 53 total games played for Team Freedom, 40 of those games for Lutano. 22 games on Genji, or excuse me, 22 games on Hanzo, 13 on Genji, another 5 on Tracer. Definitely going to your point. By the way, another 5 on Greymane, so 45 out of the 53 games on 4 different heroes.
That's pretty small, actually, considering how large that sample size is.
But he did play the Butcher in Week 10, so all's forgiven.
And that's how you earn J-House hearts here, ladies and gentlemen.
Alex the Pro G won it earlier.
Yeah. We sent it over across the pond for today.
Yeah, just not on BOE.
The Dahaka ban is a little bit curious considering it is Tomb, but we have seen still here in NA because we do typically, you know, kind of, especially with the Leo being nowhere to be found within our kind of ideology, it's a lot higher priority.
I really wonder, I mean, this is an opportunity. If they want to go ley line, they might get a little bit of diva action this game. It's something that they've run before.
Okay.
It's a little bit more forgiving in the solo. You go ley line into the bomb, and maybe get a big sun up with a Jaina and the lurking arm. There's a lot of tools, I guess, to keep people in a general vicinity to maybe get value out of that.
And we talked about the stitches, so if you have Medivh on your side of the table, I mean, I think it's very possible that we see that come out.
Just eat them and go.
I mean, even the Diablo, there's so many combinations with Medivh that you can pull out here. And I like the Tassadar ban there. I thought that second ban there needed to be the DPS, because if they ban a tank or an offlaner, they're just going to choke themselves because Gale Force has the next 2 picks there. So banning out the Tas Hanzo combination is taking out one of the possibilities that Gale Force could really do without choking themselves.
I really like it as well because the Jaina kind of, you know, where she gets that volunteer between kill potential versus the wave clear itself, and then you already have the Medivh. You don't have that good of wave kill, but you have amazing opportunities to be able to get that kill potential if you end up kind of using that Medivh to be able to die packs. So you don't have that trade-off of like, are we going to be able to match on the clear, or are we going to go for that kill potential? But we do get a Leoric. It's a wild one in the fact that we have seen almost no Leoric since I feel like before I joined here in part number 2.
Look, Hanzo, Michael Udo's kind of been on there. He did hint at him and Biggie both picking up on that. If there ever is a time for the Junkrat, you have the wave clear, you have sustain here, but you also have the concussion mine to deal with the potential Medivh portals coming in. I feel like if you're ever going to resurrect that Junkrat, which was a big part of their success, Dreadnought, and around week 6 when they started to hit their stride, haven't really seen it since then. If it's going to be a thing, I think the time is now.
Yeah, Junkrat would help their wave clear out a lot here. They are very weak in that department in the 4-man for now, but at the same time, if they do pick Junkrat, that means that this Diablo is going to be near impossible to kill, and they go for something that deals with Diablo a little bit easier.
Shred that health pool. The minute Diablo gets stacked, this is the best battleground for him to get stacked through those minions, so definitely Tychus on there. Does give him some wave clear. Obviously, he's okay on the 4-man. I think Tychus's wave clear is pretty underrated, but it generally requires him to not have too much pressure against him. Just one quick overkill and a grenade. Pretty simple, but obviously the Odin post level 10 is the big part.
Yeah, and you know, Grenade's a pretty good wave clear in itself. It's just mainly his Q that I feel like you always have to be like, oh, can I not get pressured up myself whatsoever? I also like the Tychus in the fact that Leo Wraith walks have to be second guessed consistently. You can't have that frontliner like, oh, here's the Drain Hope, the Wraith walk back, and he's just sitting there buying time. It's like, nope, he's got to end it within a fraction of a second. It's going to be a hard time to double threat onto this. I mean, from beginning to end here, I like what Gale Force did when it came to the thought behind the draft here. But there's a Medivh on the other side of the battlefield, and I every time I see that, I get really scared. That in mind, I haven't been overly impressed with Team Freedom's iteration of Medivh, and I think if macro is your struggle, if you end up struggling in the early games, the Medivh composition is going to still struggle, especially on a map like Tomb. So I just want to see Freedom get kills and then make sure they get that early turn-in, and their comp's built to do it.
I think a lot of it, you know, when I look at compositions with the Medivh, we get Medivh, Jaina. To me, it's always double mage, right? Double mage is always going to be a little bit more difficult to pull off. But again, you have the burst damage from Jaina, you have the wave clear. So I think there are a lot of elements that can go in your favor. But it also requires you to basically, the two people that are doing damage on your team are both mage style that require you to hit basically all of your skill shots.
Finn, you got any thoughts when it comes to this draft?
I mean, I feel like both drafts are about even, but the way I see it is it's a very heavy execution based on Team Freedom's side. The Tychus is going to pose a lot of problems. The Medivh shield has to be on point on the target that's being burned every single time. So I think a lot of this game is going to depend on how well the Medivh can play and whether or not Freedom can snowball early game.
No, you first, man.
No, I was just thinking about this in the early part of the draft. Things moved along pretty quickly. We saw the Hanzo prioritization over the Jaina. Would you credit that to the Medivh being there with the 713, maybe the burst damage, applying too many heals and potential too much AoE damage? Do you think maybe that might have deterred the Jaina? And what are your thought processes now since the Medivh changes with the potential Jaina on the other side?
Hanzo is definitely a lot better against the Medivh than a Jaina just because Hanzo, your damage is a lot more spread out. You Q them, auto. It's very spread out. Medivh can't deal with that very easily, whereas Jaina, you know, you WQE all at once, and that's just one shield and all your damage is gone. So it's better in that respect, but I'm still a little bit nervous on the wave clear department for GFE, so we'll have to see how that works out.
Been curious with the Medivh changes as of late, if the nerfs were enough to maybe say, okay, we'll let him through, but apparently not.
Medivh is a character that, unless Portal gets changed to a position where it can only be used once, I will always look at and be like, he can break the game. Or if his W gets set to a 25-second cooldown or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it really is that those two combined with his heroic diversity.
8 seconds not enough for you
Again,
still? 5 to 8.
We used the simple machine metaphor before, the fulcrum, right? It just gets bigger and bigger on that
Look, as much time as we've spent together, you still have not pulled up a fulcrum.
Do you know what a fulcrum is on a simple machine?
Sounds
Like,
really
like with like a
familiar.
lever, right? And it's the triangle which it sits on top of, right? And the higher it gets, the easier it is for the weight to shift.
Oh, yeah.
Like, see, he gets it. Come on,
Does
JL.
he?
I think I do.
No,
I think I do.
he's just trying to make me feel good.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
like,
he's just
does
trying
he?
to make me feel good. I draw it out, but I can't, you know, draw it for everybody at home. Maybe eventually I'll get
Maybe
on the telestrator and
yeah.
draw it later.
They're
during
busy
a replay
watching
or something.
HGC, man. You can't just send them off to go look up on their own.
Yeah, but if they're playing HGC, if they're really true, you know, filthy kind of meta slaves, then you know they got to be following up with that project. They got the protractor out because they're playing Hanzo. Got to be doing the math. So I feel like they can get the, you know, the triangle, figure it all out.
Do you think somebody holds that protractor up to the screen while they're playing? If he hits at this angle, then he...
See, what I did is I just drew on my actual monitor. Like, I just
You drew on the inside
lines.
of my car last week, too.
I did. That's actually a true statement here. It was an accident. But no, seriously, you just draw the lines on the monitor. You know,
Yes.
it's like drawing the dot on your crosshair on a game where normally doesn't provide it. Fans like, that's a good strike. It's a
not a bad
terrible
idea.
decision making. But we got game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is. Team Freedom up against Gale Force Esports.
Just put a little piece of plastic over your screen. We'll see. Either way, we've got game number 1 underway. Obviously, Gale Force coming in here. Their second series of the day. They're going to be taking on Team Freedom, who's going to be here on the left in blue, trying to keep their hopes alive here as they will strive for the clash. Collusion, he's going to be supporting here on that Stukov. Lutano on the Jaina, trying to do all the damage there, trying to carry this team. Zugrug on the front line. He's going to be on Diablo. You know those big plays are coming up. Nasmus on the Leoric, and rounding it out will be the Yoda hero here of Medivh.
In red, gaining the momentum up against Simplicity and looking to carry here against Freedom is Gale Force Esports. We're going to have big impact on that Tychus. Next up here, it's Mike Udall repping the Hanzo here for the team, looking to join in on the 4-man. B-Kid on that off lane, going to be playing Blaze. Fury on the front, he's going to be a Nubarak, and Akafe supporting the team on Malfurion.
Does Fury take over for Figgy on the front line?
Yeah,
Fury on the front
temporarily,
line?
just because we don't know if Figgy's going to return yet. I believe, you know, LFM's gained a lot here. I believe they have what it takes to make it out of the Crucible, but until that holds, Gale Force is my Fury up in the front line.
I'm pretty excited about that when it comes to it. Just the level of play in Open Division, as well as, you know, very competitive teams coming here from HGC. We could see a different landscape, maybe, or a very similar landscape. We'll know in a few weeks.
The landscape here on Tomb, though, is actually pretty interesting how this lane has unfolded so far. Pretty good control within the 4-man here from Gale Force Esports. Jaina is going to end up committing towards that Blizzard. Again, this is a little bit of the... always talk about it. You have one choice or the other. You don't really have the opportunity to commit to the kill potential or the wave clear whenever you select the Jaina. I did think that the Medivh portals would be enough to be able to kind of offset that cooldown and really give the upper hand here maybe towards Team Freedom temporarily, or at least increase the probability of that kill potential. But for now, Gale Force doing a good job kind of maintaining that tempo into their control.
I was just taking a second glance at my stats. You know, I talked about how Collusion has a different hero pool than most of your standard. And he's played a lot of Sukhov, especially since we've been back from that clash where obviously, you know, Shad kind of changed the meta single-handedly there from Zealots. And, you know, it's actually the only support Collusion has a less than 50% win rate, and it's also his most played hero. So, you know, obviously there's a lot on his shoulders, a lot for the team to play around. So we'll see. You know, generally one of the best ways to deal with the Stukov is to get that flank onto him. But when you look at these heroes, unless an Nubrak or a Blaze comes in, getting that flank might be difficult. So Collusion might be bumping up that win rate this game.
Yeah, and you have the opportunity, again, with that Medivh for that, you know, beyond his heroics, beyond the portal, you have the Force's will as well to be able to get that cross-supporting. So I agree, probably going to be that game here for Collusion and friends if they're going to be able to bump that stat up a little bit more. 12 gems have been turned in for Team Freedom, and Team Freedom has kind of temporarily gained control over the laning situation, which you see them kind of threatening here. Yoda probably going to portal top. And yeah, they've gained the control back into their favor with the 4, which is expected. But it's important for them to do more than this here, beyond just that, because the turn-ins, they don't have the best siege capabilities. They still have to get a lot of damage, whereas the siege on the side of Gale Force is still very, very, very good with their composition, even though the wave clear is still amazing on the side of GFE. So it's just, if they get the turn-in, they need to make sure they get those kills. Or if they're going to keep getting this 1-4 wave clear, make sure that if the turn-in happens on the side of Gale Force, you have the upper hand and can initiate somewhere in some way, shape, or form.
Well, you know, you actually brought up a really good point, one that I was curious about, and it basically relied around Tychus and his level 4. You talked about Lior getting those late-game Wraith walks, and sometimes he can just kind of be that target that sits there because you can't really contribute a lot to him. But we actually see In the Rhythm picked up by Tychus, which is his stacking on his minigun. Yes, you still keep the same amount of damage, but you increase its duration based on auto attacks you have during that. So we're going to see Biggie. He's under assault here. Does have that run and gun.
Surprised he still had that cooldown up, but was able to make it back. B-Kid falling pretty low, though, but Fury able to hit the Impale. Akaface making his way down. Going to drop a couple of regrowths, and Gale Force Esports hold on here. Hanzo in the downtime has been doing his best to try and further the advance of the 4-man for Gale Force Esports. Very ambitious turn-in positioning there, but he's able to get it. For anybody wondering why I say ambitious, you get to choose at any point to get that turn in, right? Why would you ever do it halfway to the opposite? Because it just increases the distance and probability of somebody getting that actual interrupt. I mean, think about it, if a melee on the left-hand side of that versus the right-hand side, that's 2 seconds of movement.
B-Kid just holding his own here. Nasmus, of course, on the Leoric. Both warriors kind of on the opposite end of the map. No big deal. It's pretty much what you can do. I mean, obviously in favor of Nasmus there is the Drain Hope. Just get a little bit of damage in.
With kind of more reference towards the Tychus conversation that you brought up a little bit earlier, not only with the double front line is this build obviously very, very good. It used to be the meta, as we were talking about in the past, but it was once the 13, you know, that's the stuff actually got nerfed, and the heal had to stop once your minigun stops. It makes this level 1 counterintuitive to a certain extent, as B-Kid actually getting caught out here in rotation. Hold up, though. Big impact. Able to hit the running gun, but that lurking arm plus the Jaina damage is going to be enough. 2 kills here now for Team Freedom, and they're not done.
Zugrug looking for more. He's got that diabolical momentum, trying to get around. And you could tell this is a very practiced, a very focused team right now for Team Freedom, because Dread, these portals are on point. Yeah. They are rotating as a team. And Zugrug on the front line there with that Diablo. This is the type of Team Freedom you want to see. The aggressive, but not over-aggressive. The team-coordinated approach. Right now, they're firing on all cylinders. They've got a few kills.
Great job.
They got the slow here. Udall doesn't have his agility. Yoda letting him know, I was here.
Okay, yeah, but we got a shout-out to Collusion, who's the man who set up with the weighted puzzle passive and lurking arm value there to set that thing up. Great job here from Team Freedom, and I agree. It does feel like this is the, you know, kind of best in North America version here of Team Freedom, where we go, yo, this is a team that could compete with the best of the best here. And they're unleashing the kind of threat here right now against Gale Force Esports. They got the Web Weavers, and they're going to be picking up the 10s miles ahead of Gale Force Esports. And what I was going to say a little bit with the world of Tychus, double frontliner, and I was talking about, you know, the 13 got nerfed and it's why we don't see this talent anymore. But I was going to say, into a Jaina, you're going to take Neos to According no matter what. And so at this point in time, you can take that talent and not consider, you know, am I going to have a problem with that stuff? Just stack it as best as you can.
Dread, I hate to warn any Gale Force fans right now, but we're taking 4 kills to 0. A lot of gems lost on the side of Gale Force, but more importantly, this first Webweaver turn-in phase has netted them a lot. It's going to net them even more as Michael Udall goes down. We're looking at a 2-level lead, and this is that big spike. This is how you snowball Tomb of the Spider Queen. Team Freedom is checking all the boxes. They got 1 fort down. They got multiple walls down. They should be able to get another fort just because they have heroics, and there's no way you can engage into that. So right now, Gale Force is in trouble.
Yeah, this is one of the moments where I think to be in this position, we would look at this game and I go, I don't think it's insane to think that out of Team Freedom, right? But the biggest moment where I want to see this from Freedom, especially against a team like Gale Force, to kind of gauge their success here in the North American playoffs is going to be, do they ever let up? They have, they're going to be rounding 12th over, you know, the 13's miles ahead. They have a Webweaver phase to be able to back this up. Do we see those moments like we saw in Battlefield of Eternity where they have the 10 spike 2-level lead and then they end up giving up so many objectives? Tomb of the Spider Queen's typically a map that is difficult to understand how to perfectly close out. And so I think it's a great way to start this series to be like, can Team Freedom still get that level of execution on what is Gale Force's best battleground?
Right now, I think that they have the tools when you look at the composition. The Medivh portals, the Diablo initiation, it's still all there. Level 10, though, is really close here for Gale Force, and you know that Odin will be a huge deterrent to make sure and keep these lanes cleared out. Bot lane, obviously, already lost the fort. Mid fort going to go down just because of the threat of 10. Blaze, dealing with the top lane, should be able to clear that out. But now Odin's here, and they should be able to have a little bit easier of a defense if they need it, which I think right now they definitely do.
Nobody's going to make the rotation down to bottom other than the Leoric, who's in the 1v1 with that Hanzo. Hanzo's going to be the solo clear for Gale Force Esports on bottom, which that Webweaver still at the 75% HP.
It seems like they're holding Odin just for the fact of they're looking for a team fight, maybe beyond this, but they still have a little bit of clearing up to do. You know, that keep wall, I feel like they might have been able to defense that, but they lost not only the mid keep wall, but a tower there. Team Freedom really is opening up this map early, Dread.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to see from Team Freedom just, I mean, you know, immediate keep front wall pressure on the middle section, and then once that gets done, just transition down towards bottom. But they ended up keeping a lot of people towards the mid and ended up not looking for those initiations, but they still have the 3 forts up. There's still, this is absolute control of this game for Team Freedom. But this is exactly what I was talking about, though. Tomb of the Spider Queen and the awkward, you know, what do we do win conditions? We're hitting it. It's not as awkward because there's still 20 gems away, and it's at a reasonable time frame for Team Freedom to be able to kind of further that. They may even maybe poke around that boss. But Team Freedom had absolute control of this game. They still have a large majority of it. They need to make sure that they don't lose any more than this. And I feel like and that would be the perfect transition of showing that they have been able to kind of fix maybe some of those struggles that we saw at moments throughout the season.
Gale Force, they just need a turn in at this point just to gain some control. Fury's going to at least feign a turn in, force out a response. Zugrug now at 13 on that Diablo does have devastating charge, so stacking that up, there's going to be 1 stack. The flip back over the burrow charge out for Fury. It's going to buy a little bit of time. See if we get the rotation down. Leoric still playing goaltender, and now Siege Giant at the bottom that was picked up a moment ago, forced to respawn. This lane so far pushed out. The longer this goes on, Dread, if Gale Force can't make something happen.
Holy boss, Batman.
The boss is there, but I don't know. I mean, Leo has to goaltend that bottom if they're going to make this call.
He's going to be the man looking for it here. Maybe. He can Wraith walk in if he would like, but surely would have been his death. Gale Force end up getting the Webweaver phase. They know that the boss has been started, but by no means is going to be able to make the rotation within time. Boss now picked up for Team Freedom. Top lane is going to be completely kind of valueless here when looking at the Webweaver. Actually, it might spawn behind that boss. If it does, that's pretty good. It did not.
By the way, we got a little bit of a change-up. Hold on. Dragon Zero is going to hit onto a few members. Jaina is one of those. But the portal will buy a little bit of time. So will the Lurking Arm, or the Massive Shove, I should say. As Collusion continuing to save, mid-Webweaver going down very rapidly. Odin was used, so they'll try and siege up a little bit, try and get some of these structures down, get to 13, but Nasmus, there's that ominous Wraith coming in to neutralize some of that damage. By the way, just casually Wraith walking most of the way down to the bot lane.
He's going to be able to get a solo clear down in the bottom lane. Gale Force still out of that 13 talent tier range. And Jayhow, it's looking like when they round that, we're going to see Team Freedom rounding that 16 talent tier. So much so, I would have liked to see Gale Force maybe gank the Leo on the bottom half of the map here. A 12 and a 15 is my best fight in this game outside of a major misplay on my opponent's side. And the only other time I could argue it's worth playing that patient and that safe is when your opponent doesn't have a way to be able to get that win condition. They just took the boss. They didn't gain much. So you'd be like, well, if they have no gems, it's going to be fine. 36 gems are turned in, 39 in the hands of Team Freedom. It's just a web weaver to back it up.
Definitely in control for Team Freedom. You know, also what I was going to point out is we have the reabsorption talent picked up at 13, not the circle. And so it'll be interesting to see how that saves. Nasmus just cannot get out of there. The amount of stuns came in. There's going to be a gank onto Leo. And we've got a cocoon out onto the Medivh. Michael Udall going to buy a little bit of time with that Dragon's Arrow. Now we're going to turn our attention to Medivh.
Medivh, he's not going to be able to get the Force of Will off in time with that chain CC.
Dread, this is not a good sequence.
No.
If you're on the side of Team Freedom, things not looking good. And Gale Force has enough for another turn in. They don't necessarily have 16, but they opened up some of the structures. And if you look at the minimap, they have the lanes pushed out to potentially get some of these structures a little bit easier, which can push them to 16 pretty quickly.
Gale Force Esports, get the Web Weaver phase. Again, this game's not back to even, but it is showing signs that you maybe wouldn't have kind of projected would exist earlier. And again, that was from beginning to end what we have said about Freedom. And again, why I was trying to gauge that. This is the benchmark. I want to see you not let up more than this at this point in time. And Gale Force is realistically probably going to get an even talent-tiered fight in this game. The question is, can they make this Web Weaver phase matter? And now Nasmus is going to confirm that 100%. Is there's a chain lock, Wraith walk out.
Wraith walk was used before, and so you know B-Kid was calling for it. They're going to get the push down in the bottom, and I think that's going to open that up because that fort will easily fall. Now the threat here is going to be in the middle, and it's a 5 versus 4 potentially. Dread, it kind of reminds me of Tempo Storm of last year where they would always get out to those hot starts and just kind of start to tail off a little bit. Never, I mean, they could clutch out a lot of wins, but it was never the easy victories that you would expect. Now we're seeing Team Freedom with some of the same struggles in Gale Force, but you got to credit them, Dread. The amount of kills that they've gotten in the last few minutes and the way that they've done it, very good rotationally. They've also caught up. They're only about 3/4 of a level down now, so things turned around drastically here.
Yeah, when I asked Mike in the winners interview, I was like, you know, were you guys in that last best of 5 as it went to game 5? I mean, were you ever panicked? Were you ever afraid? And he's like, I think for the most part we were pretty cool, calm, and collected. I feel like this game's a perfect example because, again, that 13 to 16 window, I just go, guys, we've lost this game. Like, we're going to try, but, like, this game is probably over. And the fact that they are mentally staying in it and still making all the things happen to be able to fully recover is just amazing here. 51 gems do exist in the hands of Freedom, so they can force that turn if they would like. But Gale Force is actually almost rounding another Web Weaver phase.
I mean, B-Kid loves that back-to-back-to-back. They might get it if they can get 2 more gems here and then get that turn in. There is going to be the Night Camp here pushing mid. Leo trying to get the turn in bottom. I think he should have that. I think he got interrupted there, so just sitting on 9, Lutano sitting on 10. So you can see Team Freedom desperate to get this game back into their control, but Fury and team, they're not letting them have it as they're still continuing to defend.
Yeah,
Zugra going in though.
Yeah, that Shadow Charge onto Fury is actually a pretty bold cooldown. Collusion's going to start the channel again, not enough to be able to start anything here. Odin's dropped. Nasmus is going to be the focus here for the team for now. Zugrug and friends maybe looking to back up. There's still 2 gems needed for Gale Force. They need to get those. There it is. Now they have enough. Now they need to turn in while they have Odin. Otherwise, this is going to be an easy response afterwards for Freedom.
Yeah, they've got a lot of time.
Not going to go in yet. Maybe out too far there. Impale's not going to land.
Dragon Arrow. There it goes. There's the CC train. They've got it. Diablo's going to be there. He's forced out the APOC. He's trying to get the fight. There's going to be the bunker down in return. The fight rages on. Zugrug first to pull.
But he's going to be back in 4 seconds as he does have enough souls. Nasmus trying to get the Wraith Walk. Going to take the portal. Only 1 member lost here for Team Freedom. But the biggest thing here is the Web Weavers are going to be available for Gale Force. B-Kid starts the channel. Yoda, do you have that kind of confidence? Because that is a...
Woo.
I mean, you hoop, but he's a Raven, not an owl.
Woo. Woo.
I'm sorry, that was about the dumbest witty joke I think I've ever been proud of in my life.
Well, right now you can see the pressure going in. Zugrug, here's the flip, but there's going to be the burrow charge out. The lurking arm goes down.
Fury ends up dropping. Now Nasmus with that Wraith Walk, portal over to Mike Udall. Natural agility is going to be like, okay, out of this one quickly. But losing a member during this Web Weaver phase is a colossal setback now for Gale Force Esports. This really was the momentum swing where they take this game into their control, and now it is very much not going to be the case. Web Weavers do exist for this immediately after for Team Freedom. Anybody could turn it in. They're like 2 gems away. Honestly, they almost have enough in their possession to get another
Double.
after.
Well, you say that because 20 is also rounding here for Team Freedom, which is a major power play that they can make happen. They get 20 plus a Web Weaver phase. They already opened up a couple of the keep lanes.
And Boss is about to spawn.
This is a really awkward spot for Gale Force. Do you force the fight? Do you hope to defend? You have the lanes mostly pushed out, but now we see Yoda. He's coming out to scout. We'll see if we get the engage, but it's going to be a little bit too late. Not going to be able to make it. You can tell that Diablo and Zugrug, he wanted in there, but not able to make it in time. Lutano's going to drop off those gems. In come the Web Weavers. Team Freedom getting close to 20. We'll see what Gale Force, see if they try and force it quickly.
Going to move here through the mid.
Again, the whole thing about this for me is that even if Team Freedom just buys the pressure all the way up to the keep walls, as you said, they could get that back-to-back turn-in, which is you open up the space. You don't have to force it because after this you'll have 20.
You know what I would like to see? Ideally, as like a really cheeky play, you feign the interest in the turn-in while the rest of you boss. And just be like, all right, we're going to do it, boys, and then just hit him with it. Because there is no boss, there's no turn-in on the side of Gale Force. There is no counterplay to it. Bottom Web Weavers, Mikey Dahl, he's about to get Wraith walked on real quick. Flip over onto Blaze, going to pin him against the wall there for a moment. Polybomb goes down, but he's fine. Tranquility dropped along with the bunker. Burrow Charge going to be used there for Fury. Zugrug dropping low. He has no souls, and he goes down. That is no Diablo for 60 seconds. Web Weaver is dealt with, and now Gale Force just clean up the map.
I don't understand that engagement, Dre. They're so close to 20. You get the back-to-back turn-in. Now, if they don't get a single keep here, this is a huge step back. I think they'll be able to get the top keep down, potentially. Yes, they'll still have the 20 tier. Yes, they still have pretty much enough gems for another turn-in, but not getting a keep down. I mean, you think about the pressure that the Catapults plus Web Weavers put on. It is almost an impossible defense when that's in potentially multiple lanes. In Dreadnought, they were about 10-15% away from having level 20. They thought that they had it, but Gale Force, again, somehow, some way in these games, is just surviving.
Gale Force is going to use this time frame to secure this top boss. This will buy them a little bit of window, but there's enough gems for the Web Weaver phase on the side of Team Freedom. So it's going to allow them to get that free clear on the Web Weavers if they do see that force turn in, which they're 1 gem currently away. I don't know if they didn't do the math on that proper, or if they intentionally are leaving it at that 1. Leo picked up 1 gem and walks back, so they definitely did not do the math proper. That's going to possibly hurt Team Freedom here. I don't know. I guess at the same time, there's not like there's enough gems for Gale Force to be able to turn in. So it's going to be okay for now, as they will be able to force this. But Gale Force has the 20s, and they will be able to, again, take an even footing fight.
Yeah, big red button for Tychus has incredible anti-siege potential, but it also has the big team fight potential, which we've seen. And Diablo only has 53 souls, so he's not nearly as tanky as you would like your Diablo to be this late in the game. Nonetheless, Web Weavers will push here. Mid lane already prepped, starting to posture up a little bit because the Knights here definitely still healthy. Bottom lane pushed out. It's going to be the mid-bottom. Gale Force manages, somehow loses a member or two. Team Freedom can look to capitalize in this game, but Gale Force does have the tools to defend here, Dred.
Here's the Odin. Asmus going to start the Wraith Walk, trying to rid of a bit of the damage. Big red button.
Wow.
Making easy work of that middle Web Weaver. Zugrug tries to go in for that suplex. Going to take a bit of damage, able to take the portal on the other way out here. Bottom Web Weaver has made its way up, but middle has been dealt with so easily that, to be honest, I don't know if they're even going to get bottom keep either.
It's all about the Odin. I'd like to see them maybe look to re-engage, but now this keep starting to fall. Web Weaver sitting at about 30%. Zugrug, let's see if he tries to find the initiation. But Odin has done enough, Dread, to defend these keeps. Top lane, the only one that's left. We'll see if Team Freedom just re-engages directly onto this fort. They should have enough damage because it does force out a response in this top lane. There's enough minions there. That might actually be a double keep play.
It might be. Tychus is the sole kind of member to defend. Entomb goes down, but it's not going to connect. Will they see the force here? Fury looking for that cocoon. He's going to use it. Dragon's Air locked 3. The Burrow Charge with 3 more. The Jet Propulsion, all the CC. 3 members of Team Freedom could not control their heroes. They have to take the portal out. Lutano is a man on an island here along with Zugrug, who's going to be the focus for Gale Force Esports. He burns the bolt. The interrupt there is not going to be able to get enough. He makes it out, but this is just...
Rewind from a Nubarak. You could see Fury used every button he had. The timing on it was impeccable, but it wasn't enough to get the kills. When Odin was down, there's just not enough. But now, 2 keeps down on the side of Gale Force. That is map control on the side of Team Freedom. But Gale Force, Dreadnought, they're a few gems away in one big team fight from potentially turning this around again.
At this point, it's just... Gale Force has been picked every time they get a Web Weaver phase. Hold up there. Bit of miscommunication. Fury maybe caught out. Jet Propulsion's going to go down. Big red button as well. A lot of damage there onto Nasmus. Cocoon is going to fall onto Yoda there. He has a portal when he gets out, so he's going to be just fine for now. Big red button goes down again. Not going to connect with anybody too impactful. Dragon's Arrow is a bit of a whiff as it goes through the uprights.
Jaina, though. I was going to say, Jaina's very far forward. If Fury has that, and you can see they're trying to get the turn in. They rapidly want to get this. They need to pick a lane to clear it out, though. Yoda's scouting it out for now. Odin continuing to zone. Lurking Arm goes down. Gets a minor interrupt. But Gale Force got to hit the reset button one more time before they look to fight again.
Nobody's looking to kind of sneak that turn in down on that bottom turn in, so this is going to be just fight on top turn in. We'll decide this game.
That bot lane will, I mean, that's Catapult's mounting in that bot lane. I believe there's 2 there currently. That's going to force out a response much quicker than I think Gale Force would like. They do have a little bit of time because, again, there's not enough side gems. Team Freedom, they're looking for the engage. Buried alive. It's going to be enough as the Polybomb is going to get the kill onto a Nubarak.
They get the 1-shot, 1-kill here for Team Freedom. They got the catapults on the bottom half of the map. Even massive shove away from this top, or this middle keep, the last one to stand. Yoda throws down the portal. Zugrug not going to use the shadow charge yet. Team Freedom questioning, do they go for core or go for the keep here? Looks like they've landed on the keep as the portal ends up dropping.
Not enough, though. Grenade's going to go out, thwart a little bit more, but catapults are being dealt with by Gale Force. Let's see if we get another portal in. Medivh looking to get into position, see if they can make something happen. You know, Zugrug, itchy trigger finger there on that Diablo to make sure and make something happen. Odin is out, but a very aggressive position to keep alive for the moment. They're looking to re-engage. There's the Dragon's Root. There's the root. It's just outside of the portal range.
That was a great root there from Akaface, and enough damage is going to be dealt to Team Freedom to where it scares them back. We have 10 seconds out before the Anubarak, and that keep still stands. Still 30 gems, 31 for that matter, away from a Web Weaver phase for Team Freedom, whereas Gale Force Esports, they have it. Boss is available if any team makes that kind of cheeky plays, but Gale Force has so much catapult pressure. Mid lane is going to be like the only win condition for them, and it is so not really a win condition outside of Team Freedom dying. Man, it's hard.
It really feels like maybe they get desperate, make that boss call.
There it is.
There's going to be the buried alive, the tranquility's out. See if it's enough to keep Tychus alive. As you can see, the cocoon out, the bunker's out. They have the tools to survive for now, but again, they are on the clock, Dreadnought, as catapults mounting in that bot lane. See if Team Freedom opts to try and keep Gale Force around.
Yeah, Gale Force needed to force that, not run away from it. The minute that tranquility hits, get the all in. Flip attempt number 2 going to go on to Fury. Jet Propulsion lands, locks down 2. Well, he's going to be used, slowing the retreat there of B-Kid. A lot of damage on Nasmus. Wraithwalk in with the APOC going down. The combo thrown in. Jaina with the damage. 2 members of Gale Force end up going down. 3 go through the portal here to track down Big Impact, but he's able to kite, keep himself alive. Fury gets tossed back into the members of Freedom. Looking to squash this bug for a 3rd. They're going to find it here and now march their way to the core and take what I feel like they claim rightly theirs after a very dominant early game. You know, not so dominant mid-game, but they close it out.
A big setup there that kind of initiated it all. Obviously, the Entomb into the Shadow Charge, and you can have all the healing in the world, but with that much pressure onto the core, Gale Force just too much to overcome, and Team Freedom said, Gale Force, you had battleground choice. We're taking the victory.
And though, man, I'm so torn when I look at these teams and how they play, and some of the strengths and advantages of them, and where I think they should be going to try and be able to gain them